Recruiting spending in college football keeps on ballooning. The national champions, Georgia Bulldogs, spent $4.5 million this last year in recruiting spending. The second team, Texas A&M, at 2.98. The Bulldogs, $1.7 million more in recruiting spending. If you want to know what recruiting spending is, transportation, lodging, meals, official visits, unofficial visits, post stamps, mailings, more and more. And we are joined by a guy that knows a thing or two about working on the recruiting side. That is Chris Singletary of 24/7 Sports. Chris, when you hear this much money being spent by the national champions, Georgia Bulldogs, consecutive national champions, is that just the cost of doing business in today's college football?
I think to a certain extent it is. To a certain extent it isn't. I think when you look at where Georgia's located, the amount of private planes that they're using in that southeast region to be able to touch multiple athletes, especially in that 5-star, 4-star range, is where you're getting a big tab of that. I think you also need to talk about the expansion in recruiting staffs. You're talking about the manpower that's needed across the board at these high-level blue blood programs. I think that's another place where a lot of this cost is becoming in play. And then now, because of the way the signing period is, it used to be in the day when I was coming out, everybody waited till their official visit. Well, now young men are making their decisions earlier. Therefore, you're having more unofficial visits. There's not a cap on the number of unofficial visits. So the more that they're on campus, the more guys that they're bringing on campus, the amount of people in terms of family, coaches, whoever's helping that young man make the decision are coming on campus for these official visits. Obviously, these things have turned into the official visit. So being able to accommodate the prospects, their families, show them different things while they're on campus. Again, the catering in terms of the different meals and things of that nature. All these things have escalated the cost of what we see today, which are astronomical numbers in the whole world of recruiting.
Georgia, Texas A&M, Tennessee, Texas, Alabama, all within the top five. Michigan as well, where you went to school, right there at number 6. How is it? How important is it for these blue blood programs to have what it feels like just unknowing resources in the recruiting game, and how much of an advantage is that for them, for schools who are knocking on the door? Let's say like a TCU that are trying to take that next step, but teams like this, like Georgia, Alabama, so on and so forth, seem to have this advantage where they can take private planes and send not only their head coach or coordinators, but their position coaches to schools on a short helicopter ride if need be. How much of an advantage is that built in for programs like that?
I think that's a huge advantage. I think you're looking at volume and quantity, along with, more importantly, the most thing and the biggest thing, which is quality. So you're looking at the schools in the SEC, location in terms of players in their area. So they want to be able to hit multiple players throughout the whole recruiting cycle. You look at TCU from their aspect, they're more of a niche in terms of where they're recruiting. It's obviously going to be the state of Texas. A lot of it's going to be Fort Worth, Arlington, Dallas, a lot of drive time instead of flying. So I think that's where their cost will be a little bit cheaper in terms of overall spending. But I think when you really look at it, it's not just spending the money, but spending the money smartly. And you look at some places, obviously Georgia, back-to-back national champs. At the end of the day, they say, hey, we have justification on why we're spending the amount of money, because look, at the end of the day, we're winning the biggest prize, which is the national title. But it's also about being smart about where you're spending your money. And at the end of the day, also with the private planes, is you want to be able to have the coach have a quality of life, be able to get in and out, be able to be at home every night. I'm sure they're doing a lot of football as well as recruiting. So now you're trying to maximize two worlds, not just the recruiting aspect, but also being able to be there for the current team, whether you're having off-season workouts, whether it's in spring ball, all those different things, even going to see recruits during the season, during bye weeks, or even if you're going during the season, in particular, you're playing in a particular state. Say you're playing at Florida and you're Georgia, so now you're going to play at the cocktail party, but hey, we want to go see these guys in Jacksonville that are playing, maybe some guys in the Orlando area, and then meet back up late Friday night or early Saturday morning before we play this game. So it's about being able to attack the plan, be efficient, to be able to, at the end of the day, close in on the prizes, which are the top players to help you win.
The Bulldogs, for the second consecutive year, not only national champions, but they also lead the country in recruiting spending. Chris, I got a hunch that the Bulldogs will probably be back in the same place next year when it comes to recruiting spending. Also got a hunch that they'll probably be in the mix for another college football playoff. Recruiting spending, is it getting too much? That's the reality of college football, and that's where we are right now.
No question. I mean, it's a battle of the have and the have-nots. And again, like I said, with Georgia, they show that they're spending in a way and it's working. Then you have some other places where are you spending and it's beneficial? Are you spending from a standpoint of also where we're hitting on the hot butts? I think another reason that the spending has increased is you're now able to bring more people on campus. At one point in time, you only could pay for the prospect. Now you can pay for the prospect, the parents. If it's from a split family home, now you're paying for not only the prospect, but you're paying for mom and dad. If they're not married, and then another set of parents with mom and dad, also with siblings. So I think when you factor into those things in terms of overall cost, that's just caused the number in terms of spending to increase. But it's also at the end of the day, forget all the spending. Do you have the proper plan? You can't just spend and not have the proper plan to reach the dividends and the benefits that you want. You see, Georgia has done that, and it's done well. You saw Texas A&M has done it a couple 2 years ago. They had a little bit of attrition now. I'm curious to see how they are next year in terms of overall spending, the players that they get, and ultimately how do those guys translate into production on the field. And the same thing with Texas. Where do they fit into this whole piece of the pie in terms of spending a tremendous amount of money, and then how does it translate into the one loss column for Coach Sark down there in Austin?
Spend more money, win more games. Maybe that's the truth. We saw that with Georgia, certainly Alabama, Texas, wait and see mode, Michigan on the heels of 2 consecutive college football playoff appearances. The outlier here, Texas A&M, we'll see what happens with them. They're not afraid to spend money. So there you have it, college football, the era of dropping dough.